to be done.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon for you. I've been reading a lot, not only from you, Pod, but also from Waikato, New Zealand, and I feel that I should concentrate in a smaller place to start. I think it should be something more that this should be more data in Puerto Aysen city or town of 25,000 people.
Hmm.
So where you can have a mixture of cattle or farming and lakes, fjords, tourists. So with that in hand, we can accotate is the right word, accotate, or to just to focus on something more manageable, and from there to be able then in time to expand to other cities. I feel like that.
Yeah, that's also something that we already
Yeah,
thought of, huh?
we were discussing that earlier today, and it seems there are two options. One is to focus on a smaller area, at least initially. Um, and when I looked at Isan region, it seemed to me the obvious area to focus on would be Puerto Aysan and what's the city
Coyhaique,
to
Coyhaique.
Coyhaique.
That's
Coyhaique.
that's the main
Yeah,
city, let's say. Yeah.
yeah, because that seems to be so much of the activities in the whole region seems to be concentrated in that smaller area. Um, but then Aline here said, well, it's just as easy to model the whole area, which is true in terms of the model, but maybe not necessarily true in terms of data and preparation. So if you think it's a good idea to focus on a smaller area, that's probably what we should do. Whether it should be simply Puerto Aysen or Guayuco as well,
Or both of
including
or both of them could be
well,
also.
both of them together, because they seem to be closely, from what I can see, they're closely linked,
Yeah,
maybe more than the rest of the region,
exactly.
and yet they have quite a variety of in terms of the natural environment, and the agricultural activity seems to be more in the east, and you seem to have more of the port activity in that. So I guess with a bit of agriculture and some forestry, so that seemed to be an interesting area to work on. That, however, is typical of the whole of Isan region. Um, but it's sort of up to you. So what you would prefer to see model.
And what you would think is feasible to
Yeah.
put together data for.
Yeah, I believe so. That as I say, we are doing fly fishing. So we must show the bait something
Yeah, yeah.
earlier. So authorities and local mayor and concejales, advisors, I don't know, councils, municipality council should agree on this.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I'm doing it out of the system. I mean, I have a meeting once we are able to get on the budget, initial budget, let's say, because I think there will be different steps. I can go. I've asked to have a meeting with some guy that owns a big land and he's got a lot of money and he loves
Mhm.
giving away for this type of development, and also to have with some authorities. So what would be the budget for preparing for 1 year of working, information gathering, making the first approach, whatever. So we don't go for the big picture, we just go for the first step, I believe so on.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the idea. The things you asked me the other day, I've been already asked to the regional authorities. Data, you told me to concentrate on 10 years before.
Mhm.
So I think that is for the calibration process also. I
Yes.
believe, yeah, and to see the coherence of the model, the coherence
Mhm.
of what how much does it fit? 75, 90%? I don't know.
Mhm.
And what that worries me, something that is inside of me, is the software. I mean, the software is not relevant. Uh, the relevant is the empowerment of the people, because this could be done also, I mean, by hand. You get all the information, but the mind is not able to manage all those things at the same time. But also is somehow important the presentation of the software. I've been sorry to say that, but or this, but I mean, it's more. ¿Cómo se dice la palabra? It's more marketing with showing the rigs information. So I need something like that to show uh, the demo because it's easy. Oh, I show the demo. If you change these variables, you get this on the island. Execute demo. So for me, it will be important to have some kind of demo, or maybe I can show them, if you don't mind, the demo of uh, of of rigs, but say something similar to this will be done, or better. So if you don't mind, because it's a very practical way of fly fishing.
When you said the rigs demo, what did you mean?
The
Uh, the,
wise.
the island, the Caribbean,
Oh,
what you done in
yeah, yeah,
'94, yeah, something like that. A little show. I mean, that was sea level rise,
yeah,
and uh, and uh, and well, in Waikato, they have a lot of information that I've been
yeah,
reading, because it's the same thing you're going to do. It's exactly the same thing, or maybe
right,
some
yeah,
small change. But I believe that you are updated, or you have a better version because you have added. Because sometimes it's so specialist in one item, and you concentrate with the same working team,
yeah,
you get inside of the matrix, and you don't see other
yeah,
things. And I
yeah,
feel that your uh, your change into Vito, it allow you to get more information, other point of view, and to get a better, more strength system. That's
yeah.
is my feeling.
Yeah, we can certainly do much more with the model now than we could. But some of that may not be possible in ASEAN region just because of a lack of data.
Hmm.
Um, or it may be possible, but with less accuracy.
Yeah.
Or it may be possible, but maybe you don't want it.
Yeah.
So, but the model, the basic model is there that will do all sorts of things like the RICS models didn't do in the past, like showing exactly where people will be living and exactly where the jobs are at the same resolution as the land use. This is very important when you're modeling dense areas like Flanders here in Belgium. Probably less important in ISAN because your populations are so concentrated in a few towns. Um, but yeah, that's one example of the sort of things that we can do now that we couldn't in the past. We're also building congestion models into it right now. But that's again probably not very. I'm sure it's not
It
relevant.
could be relevant if you want afterwards talk about pollution or wood burning and possible effects of that. And it's interesting to know where the people live and where the wood burning is taking place. And yeah.
Yeah, this very
Yeah.
important, and also
Yeah.
and also to to uh, to see the local fishery that is very low, and the salmon farming industry effects on jobs, on
Yeah.
pollution, on whatever, if on cages escaping. Sometimes it makes a lot of, I don't know. I tell you, I really, I must be very humble. I don't know where to start from to get the better results, and that will, well, in
Yeah.
system thinking, wherever you start, you will end
End up
everything.
everywhere else.
So it does,
Yes.
yeah. So the leverage point is this.
Yeah.
I mean, just start with something and then relate to the other, and we will
Well, if I could
finish
go
it.
back to your point about selling this, if do you have? I think you mentioned one point Sim Lucia. Do you have a copy of that?
Yeah, I have
Because
one.
that has more in it than the island model. It's basically the island model, but with some extra drivers and some little submodels. That's much more in line, I think, in terms of a demo of what we would be doing for you here with this project. So if you've got SimLucy, if you could make that into a demo, that would be an excellent thing to do, because that would be fairly close to what we would be doing in this project. Is that feasible for?
Okay, I can
Because
use that.
at the moment we don't have a demo here at Vito, so it would, so it's that would be difficult to send you something that would be as convincing as being able to demonstrate something with a model that's actually running.
Okay, I understand. And what I feel is at Vito, you are not so much at a commercial or a business issue. You are more in research. I mean,
Yeah.
more scientifical. I mean, there's two point of view. How can I sell more of this system? And you relate to customer needs or whatever. And at Vito, you are permanent, concentrated on upgrading and new knowledge and get it a more complete system, isn't it? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Vito is actually a government research institution here, and it's supposed to deal with problems that, helping solve problems that arise in the Flemish region. But we don't just deal with the Flemish region. So
Yeah.
We have sold a lot of these projects, but we have never sold a product. We haven't sold software or something, so we don't have a demo. We develop everything in-house and we sell a report, like to say, or we sell some maps that outputs of the model, but not the model itself and the nice looking software.
Yeah, but the software, the software, the final product, I mean, it will be given and updated to the customer. I mean, or to the institution. I mean, there's something that, or even it could be online, or even it could be on the cloud. So, I mean, all updates you can do it.
No, you'd certainly have it that you could run yourself.
Yeah.
And actually, what we were thinking is that well, one thing we would need to do for you is an interface that was appropriate for your application, and we were thinking of doing that in QGIS, which is a free open source GIS. Do you know it? At any rate, the advantage of that, you could also prepare any of your data in any of the standard GIS like ArcGIS and just upload it to the model. But if we prepared this in QGIS, which is freely available and has an online library that users have developed, you would be able to also to modify parts of the model yourself.
Okay.
If you wanted to extend it, and that's something you probably couldn't do, I'm told, with ArcGIS.
Okay.
So that would be an advantage. You could then do certain modifications of the actual model itself to handle other phenomena or change a relationship, that sort of thing.
And in the future, possible other users in academics or I don't know who could also contribute to the model. If they want to build an extra block, it's all open source, it's all in QGIS. If they can program, they can add some own model building blocks as well.
Okay, so it might be incorporated in academic works more easily with less cost and
it's not licensed and so on. Yeah.
And what about the cellular automata or automata cellular? Where it comes from, or is it considered, or you have another system for a scenario for what do you do in the process of simulation? What do you do? Well, you have been Roger. You have been talking the last 30 years about automaton cellular. So is it incorporated on the system? I believe so.
Yeah, the heart of the system is the cellular automaton.
Okay.
So that's still there, but it's a very different one now. Do you know about the old cellular automaton? Just in very general terms.
No, in general terms.
Yeah. Well, you know that each cell has a neighborhood around it. In the island model, I think it was 6 cells, and later it was 8 cells radius of the neighborhood. In our current model, it's the entire map, the neighborhood. So now it takes into relationship everything that's on the map, wherever it is.
Okay.
And this allows us to take into account long distance interactions, like between Puerto Aysan and Coyaco. So it's still a cellular automaton, but it's a very different one.
Okay, and also you work at the site with system dynamics model also.
Yes, I don't, but some of the other people here do work with system dynamics. But in a sense, what we would do, because theirs is very complex, but also not very well specified. In some cases, just like positive relationship, negative relationship, but without saying what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
What we would have in this one would be something like a very simple system dynamics model, but one in which you could put in scenarios of what the relationships are. Perhaps we could
show
the where is that? Maybe
can we send it by mail or show it on screen?
Can we show
it on the screen? Show it. No problem.
It's just a simple schema we got together to show the structure of what we might do for you.
And now can I?
I think you have to
use this. Share screen.
Got it.
So
start sharing. You have to push the button. Start sharing.
Where did you see that? Yeah.
Button.
So do you see the?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So here in the in this orange square in the middle here with the three blue things, that's the that's where the cellular automata would be. But what's driving the cellular automata would be economics and demographics and ultimately climate change through temperature and precipitation or other climate factors if they're relevant. This is the sort of thing you would have to tell us what you're interested in. And so those then tell you how many cells of various types you need, and it also tells you how the population will grow. That's in the demography, or how the economy is growing, or which parts of the economy is growing and which is declining. And those get fed into the cellular automaton for their spatial expression. And so these things are basically a simple systems dynamics model, though they're actually linked not directly. Well, sometimes they're directly with each other, like demography and economics, but normally they're linked to each other through the land use. But the basic idea of being there that most things interact someplace, and that's captured in the land use dynamics. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the relationship between the CA, which is here, and what you would call the systems dynamics, which would be there. Does that sort of answer?
Yeah. I mean, complexity should be explained in an easy way. So relying on a very complex with many variable system dynamics, it will make it worse. But if we start simple and then feeding with new information would be quite great.
Yeah. And I think you've got something like this in the Simlucia model.
Yeah.
So you would be able to show that with this Simlucia if you use that as a demo.
Okay. And well, looking at this, we have some kind of very important difference between Puerto Aysén and Coyhaique. Something is telling me just to start with Puerto Aysén, because even we are 60 kilometers away from, we have different climate. Mm-hmm. And from there is more mountain, 100, 500. We are at the seaside level here, and there they are on let's say Cordillera. I mean 1,500 meters up, and they have pollution. They have another problems, and quite different than our problems. So please, I need you to tell me. It's not what I want. It is what will be good. Just take it account as I was a team of yours, and what would you, with your experience to start, it's not what goal I want. Well, I have a general goal, a simulation system that allows for regional decisions and city decisions to be aware of the future impacts. That's right. But well, climate change is one thing, pollution is another thing, and overfishery is another thing. Fish farming. I mean, there are many issues here that I don't know. I'm very ambitious. I would like to have a full model, but let's go to Earth and say, Jorge. Yeah, I know we can do it. It will take 5 to 10 years, and but we should start. In your experience, we should start by this, and this will grow on. Yeah.
Well, okay. In my experience, you should start with more or less what you see on this diagram, in that I think it's easiest and you get the most results quickest by starting with the basic land use dynamics and linking that with the driving factors through very simple systems dynamics. And if that's the sort of modeling that you're starting with, then I think the Proyecto or the region Proyecto Coyhaique would be the easiest to start with. Now, you just pointed out to a difficulty in that if we talk about climate change, it's going to be quite different in those two areas. Maybe the change won't be, but the actual climates are quite different. Which in a way makes it more difficult, but also much more interesting. I think we could handle it fairly simply if we wanted to do both areas, both climate regions, by having not just a simple temperature change, but a map of something like mean annual temperatures or some other key temperature measure and precipitation measures as a map, even as a generalized map, and then have the map altered by the scenario, the climate change scenario. And that way each region, each sub-region, ideally every cell on the map gets its own climate and its own changing climate. Not that it would mean much at the cell level, but at least in an area of some square kilometers, you would begin to get some feeling for how things would change.
But that is maybe only relevant when the regions also impact each other. I'm not sure if you mentioned something about the interaction between the two regions. You said they were quite different, but do they also affect each other in one way?
Yeah, they have effect in each other. I mean, Coyhaique has there's more of the money goes there. There's more commercial activities, or all the authorities live there, and decision making for the region are there, and also they have a lot of industries and related to cattle, or to how you say cattle, or
Cattle.
cattle or sheep, whatever. And I feel it's quite different behavior of that city from our town. So for Aysen, it should be taken Coyhaique first as external. If we concentrate on Aysen, I feel Coyhaique should be an externally or outer of our model, or you believe that we should concentrate in both of them at the same time? I don't know. I mean, I tell you, I don't know. I don't want
most
to be
interesting then to consider both at the same time, because if you then in your economics have a growth of industry and cattle farming, then population will probably also go to the Coyhaique city. And if you have growth in aquaculture, fisheries, then population will shift towards Puerto-Aysen. So they're related to each other, and they have different economics, but they can influence each other, I think.
No problem. We can work it out.
Yeah. Another argument for including Coyhaique would be what you just said, that all the decision makers are there, and if they're the ones you're going to want to get money from, they might want to see their region modeled.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's fine. And also, there's a part of a scenario planning or a scenario making. I'm prepared for that because, as I told you, it was been a while since I haven't made workshop, but I understand quite well the scenario planning and the process of working with people and communities to make most of what awareness, what could come. I mean, I can work it out on that. So
actually, if you're interested in using this model with local people and getting their input and that sort of thing, I could put you in touch with someone in England now, but he worked in Spain. His PhD is from Spain, who has done that. He's used these models in an interactive context.
Okay.
And that's something we haven't really done, but he's done it, and my impression is it worked very nicely, both in getting extra input that was relevant for the model and getting better ideas of what some of the parameter values that should be going into scenarios, but also just in terms of building local support for a sort of systems thinking.
Okay, okay, I agree, and I believe that this being an open source in the future, maybe the software can be not open, but can be have access of whatever academics can work through the web. I mean, really impact because they can simulate by themselves without affecting our model. So with that, we can spread the word, we can spread the technology, and all the regions will start ask then for the model reply.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, that's what I would
Going
like.
back to your earlier point when you were asking us what we would recommend, there was something else you raised there. You mentioned repeatedly the salmon farming. That's something that I think we really shouldn't have in, or at least much of, in the modeling initially, because that's a very different sort of phenomenon to model it in itself adequately. Where the way we might bring it in is to have scenarios about what are the future of that industry, one in which there's a booming international market and people, either there isn't enough local pollution to bother it, or people ignore the pollution, or another alternative scenario would be that the pollution begins to limit or even kill the industry, and then feed those scenarios into the drivers of the cellular automata model, which would then affect the growth of places like Puerto-Aysan and maybe even Guayaquil if some of the money flows there. So it would be considered sort of as an external one of these boxes in the system dynamic.
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult in any reasonable future because modeling salmon fisheries, I think, and their relationship to everything else is a very different sort of problem, and it can be done, but it's a big problem in itself.
Well, it can be worked separately. We are not
another aspect of that don't really know. Do you have in the to the west of Puerto-Aysan in the islands in that area? Do you have many very small fishing communities, or are there not many of those?
No more than 5.
Okay. So that's not a big issue then. Yeah. I was going to say, because the salmon farming would have some effect on those, but if there are only 5, probably no one cares. Whereas there are hundreds of these communities and they're all dying, and so it's a big issue politically. But for you, I guess it's not a major issue if there's so few of them.
No, but I feel also there's going to be a huge change in the future. There's going to be implemented by law the system of inland farming. You know, the inland farming, I mean, everything is made inland. 99% of the water is recycled, no waste, no. And
well, that's what they're doing in New Zealand now and in Norway, I think.
Yeah, they should go to that place.
It's all inland,
yeah.
All the new.
Also, this is important for me. If it could be possible to have a letter of interest, I don't know how you call it, to start. I mean, a letter of interest to start talking with authorities that I have your support, you are very interested on developing, and all your previous experience. I'm not talking about only Vito. I'm talking about the team work experience and working on, and so I can start doing my lobbying. Yeah, and also in that one, I can make. Once you got it, I make a Spanish translation, so I resend it to you so you can sign it. Without any commitment or contract under that. I mean, it's just starting the process, and also to have let's say a preliminary budget for initial things to do. I mean, a limited budget for let's say to develop the architecture, just not the construction, the architecture of the system. I mean, start thinking of data required, reflections on the system. How long could it take? 1 year, 2 years, and what budget would you need? Also for traveling here, traveling expenses or whatever. Something just to not start the software, but just start gathering the preliminary pre-project, and then it will come the project. I don't know if I was well to express myself. I mean, funds are important, and also it is so important for you because time is cost, is money, and you are concentrated on and our project, and you're taking your time and using your brain also.
Yeah, a letter of intent is not a problem. We can write it very easily and very quickly.
Yeah.
And then have a signed version. That's not an issue.
And also the CVs and the team, the project team.
The project team, you're one, and then I will go to different places, universities or whatever. What I don't want is to.
And you also wanted a list of projects. Is that what you said?
Exactly what the team, not us Vito, but also the team has participated and developed. So and also all the books. I bought your book, Roger. So you should come in 10 more days. Yeah.
I was thinking we have some copies here. I was thinking of sending you one, but then I thought it would probably take months to get there, and
you can send me an extra one if you have whatever. I will give it away for a senator and
okay.
Yeah, but I just bought it, so don't worry. But
and about that estimation of budget, we have been thinking, but we were also thinking, like you said, more like in phases. So an estimation of a first very preliminary draft version of the workout of what you see at this moment at your screen. That could be given, but okay, what comes after and what other things have to be built, and that a little bit depends on what the customer and the clients want, and so that's more difficult to already.
But I think maybe Jorge was talking about something other than what you're talking about now, because you were just saying before we actually start programming anything.
Even before.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
We were thinking about a budget for actually programming the model that you see here.
Exactly. Not the software and not the model, but just for preparing the RV car, just before going model home, you prepare everything and so I can show, well, this is the preliminary work, and then it will go the other one. I mean, the results will be just a written document of what the team would be, or what we can incorporate, or whatever. I mean, it's intellectual work. Well, everything is intellectual, but
other organizational.
Theoretical work, organizational work, that it will take some time, and so and it will be a ping pong game and start talking. I will have to travel, or you have to go travel, and I mean, I must be very wise in choosing collaborators here in Chile. As I told you, I don't want to get it ideology or politicized, or some people that think, oh, I'm a PhD, I'm a geography, this, I should manage this, I'll get out. And that's not the idea. I mean, I'm not a geographer, I'm not a programmer, but I have the big picture. I mean, if I find somebody better than me, I will get aside and say, okay, you can manage this part. But in this process, I must be very wise to choose the right people, the right institutions. So this is not to be monopolized by anybody. It's an open way of community sharing, technology sharing, and future vision. So I must be very careful in that.
Interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
So one other question, maybe that's relevant for a little later when we get to talking about budget for doing the work. Would be we were sort of assuming, because you mentioned you have people who could do GIS and you have a number of skilled people there, it seems. We were assuming that you would be able not just to collect data, but you would actually handle the data. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we somehow, I'm not telling you very advice, or I mean, we are not very advanced on that, but I think there are people that can do modeling, mathematical way, geographic information system. I mean, we have people, but I have to choose them.
Okay. So if you came up with data sources on things like land use or population, they would be able to construct the appropriate maps at the appropriate resolution and put them into to
exactly.
the GI. So
yeah.
Because often that's what we have to do for clients because they aren't able to do it, and that's fairly expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, everything is expensive, but
I know that.
that is one major expense which at least we wouldn't have to budget if you had people doing that, and probably better for local people to do that sort of thing anyway, just because they have a better understanding.
The data and they know the
Also, if Vito is government institution, also I would try also to some kind of governmental collaboration between Chile and Belgium. You are in
But it's not the Flemish region. But maybe either level would work. I don't know. I'm not Belgian.
What was the different Flemish region? Is some kind of independent region? I mean, I'm very ignorant.
Well, Belgium is now a federal state, so that the regions are quasi-independent, but there's a national government.
Yeah.
And so some competencies are regional and some are federal. But the regions are quite powerful. They have a number of powers, so they are quite powerful in themselves.
It gives some opportunities because we can have a look at the both governments too.
Okay, you're less bureaucratic, I think. You just go directly to the decision makings in your region instead of going to the centralized system.
Well, you often go to both if you think either one maybe is a possibility.
Yeah. Okay, so with that in hand, I will try private grants, governmental grants, or whatever. I mean, it will take some time, but in that place, we'll start be able to have a good presentation and a lot of work done. I've downloaded more than 1 gigabyte of information, of books and whatever. Now I have to.
I was looking through some of that you put. I found the atlas very useful as a first source. The Atlas of Iceland. There was because it is good to have some background information. So.
Yeah, but I believe there's a huge information systems here. I mean, we are not, as you know, Chile has been very stable economics, political, and there's a lot of funds on research on GIS and I think I'll be surprised how much information I'm gonna find out and also the files. How you say the files related to some software. If you can send me the software that you are using for research, or viewing and opening the files and arteries or what kind of GIS you use, so I can try to get most of it.
Well, I think for the GIS you can use any one, either QGIS or ArcGIS. Whatever uses shape files, is that right? Well, yeah.
Okay. So you see in the budget, there's a lot of research information, a lot of time of reading for you. I mean, everything must be incorporated. That's what I mean. It's a research process that can take a whole year of reading out of your time and making conclusions and reflections about where to concentrate. Things might change, and I mean, all I know in my mind that I have software that can help decision making and can be able to warn them. Hey, you're doing this road here. Well, you believe you are under political pressure, but this what will happen in 5 more years. I mean, just to be able, not as a government ownership, but it can be public system, so everybody can advise and can try. As I tell you, it's a sim city like, but without people moving. So it won't be closed down as a secret. It will be open, so every people can go to it and demand and to advise or vote for those responsible politicians that take care of the land use and the future. I mean, that's for me. It's a kind of political revolution.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's the main idea. Okay.
Good. Well, I hope it doesn't take a year to get this
point
preliminary to the
no, but
look, Roger, and the people from Vito. I mean, I'm very honored, and I feel synchronicity here. It is working. I work more than faith. I work in synchronicity. I mean, just something is going here, and we have this is the third meeting, and I think something is going on. So I think the flow is going here, and something that greater than us is working on this. Let it call it Gaia, or let it call it God, or let it call it the intelligent universe. So I believe something is going on. Money will
I hope
come
so.
by itself. No, I'm convinced about it. Money will
Yeah.
come. If not, I have some business, and it can work related to the salmon farming industry, inland farming. I own a 1,000 hectare land with 2 bays, so I'm just working with some from Jewish people that would like to buy the land, install inland farming, RIS, recycle aquaculture system. So if I don't get funds, I will have my own funds. So it's something
Okay.
that should be done.
Yeah.
So don't worry.
Actually, that raises a point I was just curious about. I noticed many of the rivers, especially in Koyaki province, were shown as tourism areas,
Yeah.
prior for tourism. But it struck me also those would probably be some of the areas that might be used for salmon farming if it moved inland. Is there a conflict there, or?
No. Salmon farming, I explained to you, salmon is an inland, and you don't use rivers. You just it's like a cattle farm, but this is a very enclosed system
Yeah,
that
but they take the water from the river. At least in New Zealand, they take it from the rivers and then put it back in the rivers.
and normally they can have water from the public system, or even in external tanks. Well, if it works on the
Yeah.
river, okay. I mean, they take, but that water is 99% recycled. I mean, in
Okay.
that water they put salt. Yeah, they put everything like the sea environment, but everything is recycled. The same water is reused. There's no waste. I mean, everything is very well managed. All the waste from food, from biological waste is reused for agriculture. I mean,
Hmm.
it wouldn't affect in that way. It
Okay.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
So also, these are some things that we should consider. Also, is we have a lot of potential hydraulics power plant
Yeah.
here. A lot.
Yeah.
We had a great conflict, as I explained to you in past conversation, that there was a huge big project that, well, people made a lot of political resistance, but I think they will be done. If not in
Hmm.
5 years, in 20 years, energy will be needed here, so it will be done. So that will be very important also to explore in the future what will happen if we put a big dam here for
Okay.
such a gigawatt, and the impact of nearby towns and the
Yeah.
workers and whatever pollution. It will be very important. I mean, to have very instructed and informated
Yeah.
decisions, because now everything is related to social pressure. Oh, we
Hmm.
will do this because people will go to and take the road, and everything is politics. Nothing is technology. Nothing. Everything is, all decisions are mainly by the people's words and shouts and revolution. I mean, we can use both of them. I mean, if people current needs must be fixed with future needs. I mean, and as we democratize the decision making with this system, they will be more aware that the present won't solve the future things, or they'll be able to say, "Oh, my solution today will do this damages on the land." I mean, I believe something great is coming out of here. Uh, that's why it's important to have the system and to have the right words to the people that are taking the streets and say, "Hey, we want this." Oh, come on, I know that. But if we make this decision, if we listen to you and do whatever you want, this is going to happen to this other future people or other future communities. So I mean, be responsible. I mean, for me, it's also a very huge political, techno-political instrument.
Good.
As you see, I'm very politician. Huh?
Yes.
I love that, but I'm not related to the current people. I mean, they're very somehow afraid of me because they don't understand what I'm talking. I mean, politics here is normally of making concessions. You give me power, I help you in this and that and that, and even decisions are not logical. But they say, okay, you help me on this, and to get elected, and now I help you in this other
Yeah.
project. But
No, I understand. I was amazed when I was in Chile. I was taken to a reception, and I was astounded at how everything was political. I mean, even people would just say hello to somebody else, and somebody else say, "Why did he say hello to that person?" You know, it was like, what does that mean? I'd never seen a place where everything was political in that sense.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know what you're talking about. Well,
I'm
that
not
was
that.
Santiago. It's probably different in Aysén.
I'm politically incorrect. I always say the things directly. I believe in the long term will be much better. I don't like to how you say to with the hand. Oh yeah, you're right, boss. Or no. I just go. This is bad. This is good, and that's my way of looking things in life and whatever efforts or objectives and goals I've reached is been done that way. So I believe politics will change. Politicians will be elected or re-elected just for one period, not 20 or nearly 30 years of being elected. So that must be changed. So I believe, I insist, the system, it will be a turning point, being a leverage point for, because people will feel ignorant and they will have to start studying. Uh, and most of those ones that are in the Congress, they don't study, they talk only. Okay.
We know that.
Yeah.
Sorry to be so transparent, but that's the main issue. But I believe we're going on. We are advancing, and we will get support.
Good. Okay.
We
Is
will
that
write
it?
that letter of intent.
Yeah.
We'll write the letter and
project
team
team,
CV and
projects, yeah.
list of projects for the past 30 years.
Okay. Yeah. That's the idea.
And you
We're
can
a
use
leading
or
authority.
modify
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can change the or use the Simlucia for the demo. That would be good. I don't know how you could change it to Spanish, but
That's what I would
yeah,
like if somebody can help me to find the database where I can just translate all the menus and explanation. I mean, I can do that.
yeah.
I've done it for other software. I've done it for other simulation systems.
Okay.
So,
So
so
what do you need there? You just need the terms translated. Is that it? Or
no. I mean, somebody who can open the software. I
oh
don't
yeah.
care of opening and just sending me the words needed to be translated and just send it back.
Yeah.
So that could be shown in Spanish. Okay, and I make a summary what was made in Santa Lucia and Sim Lucia, and what we want to do with this Patagonia and also in the future in other regions, and how it will help. But
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
so there is also another project that it might be open to you also in the future. You know, Robinson Crusoe. Or
Yes.
Shetland, I mean
Island.
archipelago. Yeah, this is Juan Fernandez archipelago.
Yeah.
Well, there's also this authority, elected authority, that would also like to. There's something similar to Simbusia, and for the wilderness or for the pollution or whatever, would like to have some solution. So you can contact him directly, or I will resend. I'm sending all this information to him, so he's got your email, so he can
Okay.
have some. Well, he's a senator, and he also was a vice admiral, and he knows a lot. He's very smart and intelligent. So how can you support him in making some kind of I don't know if it's decision making or monitoring of the Robinson Crusoe Island. Okay, this is very smaller system, but I will ask him, and so if you interested to talking him, and it will help us anyway, because that will be a good bridge for authorities to start talking about the system. Okay.
Okay. Good enough. Yeah.
Okay. So everything will come out. So I'm very convinced. I
Okay.
don't have faith. I'm convinced that this will work out. It's working now.
Actually, you asked also in a previous email for a list of data, and I just was today making a list of data. It's, of course, is subject to change depending on exactly what we end up doing, but I think it's pretty close to what ultimately we would need. So I'll email you that.
Exact that file type, exactly all that information, and as soon as possible I will resend it to you, so you can evaluate how much information we have and how much will be done working on those, so to get the first approach of the anteproyecto, before project, how you call it there, before the project is being written down, the real project. You have a pre-project, you also call it like that, a pre-project or before
I don't
project?
think we have a term
We
for
don't
that.
have pre-projects.
We just have projects.
We call it anteproyecto. Anteproyecto. I mean,
Anteproyecto. Okay.
yeah, anteproyecto. I mean, so
Okay.
to have the as I told you,
We'll use the Spanish term, the anteproyecto.
anteproyecto. It's the preliminary project, and they must be prepared. So, and then once, so the budget for the pre-project, let's say the budget for the pre-project, how long will take? A year and a half, and then we will have that to get the 5-year funds, let's say, or get a fund year by year.
Okay. About the data list, though, it's something that, as I say, will. It's sort of an ideal list, and so some of the things won't be available, and then we have to have fallback plans. How do we handle that, and so on. So it's not like the project can't go ahead if you don't have exactly everything on the list. It's more like a wish list. Some of them are more essential than others, but this is a good list to work with, I think, initially.
No problem.
So I'll send you that then, as more or less immediately, and then you can begin looking at it.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Okay.
It's been a great week, great month that happened. So we will go on. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your wisdom and intelligence and all your team that is working there. And I believe
thank you for your enthusiasm.
And language hasn't been a barrier for me. I believe I'm starting getting more in technology language, so will be updated very easily.
Great.
Good. Okay, well, we'll talk again at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
The letter of intent should be somewhere next week. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably next week sometime then. Yeah.
And then I can show you more pictures, so I can bore enviness of you.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful motorhome, so once you come here, we can go and have a 3-day trip. That is very important to show you how the region is. So have a nice time and work a lot also. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Be well. God bless you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.